modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu Leolam va'ed Leolam va'ed Leolam va'ed Leolam va'ed Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu thankful for our lives, thankful for our souls, thankful for the miracles wondrous to behold, thankful for the morning, thankful for the afternoon, thankful for the evening, nighttime blessed by you. Leolam va'ed forever and ever, Leolam va'ed forever and ever, Leolam va'ed Leolam va'ed forever 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 Leolam va'ed. She'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Ve'imotenu. modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu Leolam va'ed Leolam va'ed Leolam va'ed Leolam va'ed modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu thankful for our lives,
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Look at this crowd of people on here on New Year's weekend. So glad. I feel like I should be down there. We should be down there, but we'll not transition right now and just say Shabbat Shalom. And welcome to the last Shabbat service. Oh my gosh, Kat is here too. This is very exciting. Welcome to the last Shabbat service of 2022. We already had our New Year's, but now the rest of the world is a few months late. We're going to celebrate with the rest of them. And we're going to sing together Shalom Aleichem as we welcome in the angels of Shabbat. We'll turn, in a moment, I'll grab the iPad that I accidentally left down there, and we will begin singing Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Asharet, Aleichem Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boechem l'shalom, Aleichem Shalom, Malchei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruni l'shalom, Malchei HaShalom, Malchei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zetchem l'shalom, Malchei HaShalom, Malchei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Well, we're going to invite those angels of Shabbat that surround us to bless us one last time in the secular New Year. And we're going to turn to the lighting of the Shabbat candles. We are going to invite one of our favorite Jews up. Barry is going to light our Shabbat candles. You can find that on page 2 or up here on the screen. After he lights that, we'll recite the blessing together. If the thing will work appropriately.
Point it down.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav
v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel
Shabbat. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Let's read this together. The first mitzvah in the Torah is, let there be light. So we are commanded. In everything you do, be a menorah, a bringer of light. Live with honor, act with integrity, do your work with passion, and the radiance of your deeds will live after you. May our ideals burn bright, forever unextinguished, and may we live in our lives like the flames we kindle, always stretching upward, striving for good, reaching for you. And we want to welcome not only the folks who are here in the congregation tonight, but those who are watching online. There's a bunch of you, and we want to say Shabbat Shalom to you all. We're going to turn to the iconic prayer Lechat Odi, the beginning of our Kabbalat Shabbat, our welcoming service. And we'll turn over to Nick for a fun melody.
Lechat Odi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavela Lechat Odi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmi'anu el ha'meyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad V'shemo tiferet v'li tefila Lechad Odi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavela Lechad Odi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Itoreri, itoreri, itoreri. Kiva horech kumi hori. Uri, uri, shir deberi. For Adonai Alayich nigla. Lehadoni Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavela Lehadoni Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavela.
We'll invite everyone to please rise and face the entrance to the room as we welcome in Shabbat.
Erev Shalom Ateret ba'ala Gam besimcha uvetzohala Toch emunei am segula Boi chala Lechadoni Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavela Lechadoni Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat Nekavela.
You may be seated for just a moment. Let's read this blessing together here. We offer thanks. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in the darkness, for Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love. We offer our thanks and blessing, O God. We're going to turn to the middle part of our service here, the Baruch Hu and the Shema. And before we get to this section of the service where we're going to say the Shema, which is the kind of the middle part of our experience here, and it is an important part of the Torah, I want everyone to notice the beautiful windows that we have that have different commandments than we read about in the Shema. We have the 10 Commandment windows. Bobby, can you zoom in on the windows? Is it possible for people at home to be able to see those? It is. If you don't know the history, they have been up there for a long time, the windows that have the first letter, the first of the 10 letters of the alphabet, which represent the 10 Commandments. There was a big fundraising effort when the building was first built, and I think it was maybe a couple years after the building was running that they were able to get the windows in there. They were just a few years ago damaged by some water, and some water was getting into our ark behind the Torah scrolls. And so we had to take them down and replace them with regular windows. And just last week, we finally were able to reinstall a new version, which looks identical to the old version. And it's nice to have that representation back. That kind of tablet theme, it really runs throughout this entire sanctuary. You'll notice it, of course, with the 10 Commandments, but the theme runs through the doors and the windows here, and also even like the way the lights shine onto the walls. All of that and the yahrzeit boards in the back, all of it was kind of thematic to remind us not only of the 10 Commandments, but also of this idea of a window, of our congregation being open to all. So we'll get to chant the Shema in just a little while, where we're going to learn about some of God's commandments, but I wanted to mention those so that we could appreciate them together. Why don't we turn to the Baruch Hu, and we'll invite anyone who is able to please rise.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam. Yolalai, lai, lai. 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 Yolalai, lai, lai.
You may be seated, and we're going to read together this Ma'ariv Aravim before we get to Ahavat Olam. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. We'll move to the bottom of the page in English. You are the creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch Ata Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. We join in Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu, Uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki chem hayenu, ve'orech yameinu, Uvahem negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla. Va'ahavatecha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Ohev Amo Yisrael.
And Michael's awake. Perfect. We're glad to have you with us, buddy. We're going to invite everyone to please rise for the Shema on page 34 or up here on the screen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, B'chol levavecha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'elech, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom alevavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, b'shivtecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, Uvshoch becha, uvkumecha, ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayula totafod bein einecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tizkeru, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, V'item kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. V'hiot lahem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Emet. I'm going to ask if anybody has a simcha to share, either online or here in the room. Anything in this past week or weeks that you are celebrating. And we'll see if anyone wants to share something. Any kind of simcha at all.
That's calling somebody out.
Say it again.
But that's going.
All right, yeah. Yeah, okay, all right. I was going to say this. Will you turn up the blue one? Yeah, that would be all right. Yes, sir.
Michael is 9 months old today.
9 months old.
Hey, Mike.
Birthday,
Hoorah, Michael.
That's fair. I was proud of you, too. All right.
He's a slow waker.
That's fair. Anybody else? Well, that is certainly a simcha worth celebrating. The fact that we have collectively made it to the end of the secular year, 2022, with all of the stuff that is in the wake of this past year. But here we are, and that is certainly cause to celebrate. Any other smachot? Let me just look. What's that? Couple of online ones. Okay. Miriam says, my daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter are here visiting from Portland. Yay, that's terrific. Enjoy that. And Connie says, I'm going to be a grandma again in April. Wow, that is terrific. Those are wonderful smachot. I think for all of those and for some that we are perhaps keeping to ourselves, we'll join together in singing Mi Chamocha, page 40, or up here on the screen.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha ledar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot ose fele, ose fele. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha ledar b'kodesh.
We'll invite everyone to please rise as we turn to the Amidah. You can find that beginning on page 46 and then also on to 48 and 50. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham,
Elohei
Elohei
Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah,
Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Hasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei V'Nehem, L'Ma'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav L'Hoshia. Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim. Sohomech Noflim Ve'rofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memid, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emana Tal HaChayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kedoshim b'chol yom Yehalalu Chasela, Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Amen. We'll take just a few moments. You can either use the words of the Amidah if you would like, or whatever words are in your heart as we continue with some silent prayer and meditation. You may be seated whenever is comfortable for you.
Oh, I might be detuning. Oseh shalom, shalom imromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom, shalom imromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Oseh shalom, shalom imromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael, amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
In a recent conversation with a bat mitzvah student, we were working on her Devar Torah, on her speech. And sometimes when we're working with the kids, that can be a challenging moment of getting them to come up with some kind of creative idea that relates to their lives. And when I was meeting with this student, we were talking about the famous story from her Torah portion, Abraham and the binding of Isaac. Arguably one of the most well-known stories in the Torah, where God commands Isaac to sacrifice his beloved son. God commands Abraham to sacrifice his beloved son, Isaac. There are, as you can imagine, many interpretations of this story and the action that follows it. Through a straight reading of the text, it looks as though Abraham is going to follow through with his plan, with this plan from God to sacrifice his son, following the advice that he has received from God. There are many other commentaries that say that Abraham knew that God wouldn't ask him to actually go through with the sacrifice, that he knew both he and Isaac would come back down the mountain and the entire ordeal would be behind them. Not a rabbinic commentator herself, but there is a great video of my grandmother of blessed memory as we were cleaning up from a Shabbat dinner in Milwaukee. I believe I was a young HUC rabbinical student at the time, or maybe I hadn't even started rabbinical school yet, but this video exists on YouTube. Somehow, the topic of Abraham and the almost sacrifice of Isaac came up, and my grandmother, in her usual irreverent tone, shouts on the video, "If God told me to sacrifice my son, I would say, screw you!" And you can Google me, and you'll find that video of my grandma on there on YouTube. Clearly, the story brings up a lot of emotions for many of us, right? Even if Abraham knew the outcome, how could he go along with a plan that would, at the very least, probably scare his son? Even if he knew he wouldn't kill Isaac, it seems like that would be a pretty traumatic parent-child moment to bestow. How could someone who was so devoted to God the father of monotheism in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, how could someone be such an important patriarch, at the same time maybe a lousy father? We see examples of this over and over again in the Torah and in the larger Tanakh and the Jewish Bible. We see Jacob make many questionable choices as a young person, egged on by his mother Rebekah. We see Shimon and Levi, characters who are both violent and impulsive and not kids who we would want to claim as our own. If you've read about King David, you likely know the story of David and Bathsheba and his abuse of power. We even see Moses, the Holy One, our teacher of teachers, Moses, and his brother Aaron, both who have very human flaws, enabling us to see ourselves very clearly in our biblical ancestors, sometimes a little more clearly than we'd like. This week's Torah portion begins with a confrontation between two of our ancestors, two brothers, Judah and Joseph. At this point, Judah does not know that he is talking to his brother, whom they sold into slavery years before that. A quick recap in case you haven't been keeping up with the Torah portions or you haven't seen the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical Joseph. Joseph is one of 12 brothers, and his father shows him more love than his brothers. The brothers become jealous of Joseph, and after debating killing him, they decide instead to sell him into slavery after throwing him into a pit. Joseph ends up in Egypt, where in prison, his power to interpret dreams makes him famous. He ends up working closely with Pharaoh and helps Egypt to become prosperous even during a famine. We're at the end of the very long Joseph story, the long, and I should say entertaining Joseph story, where he is now the second most powerful person in Egypt, where he can determine where Egypt's food supplies will go. And his brothers come down to Egypt from Israel looking for food during the famine. The brothers don't recognize Joseph. It's been many years. He's wearing Egyptian clothing. And during a tense scene in this week's Torah portion, his brother Judah argues with Joseph about the freedom of their youngest brother, Benjamin. While this subject about which they are arguing seems pretty straightforward, Joseph is threatening to keep Benjamin there. Later rabbinic commentary tells us that there's actually a deeper conversation happening here than what's on the surface. They're not just arguing about Benjamin or even about the brothers selling Joseph into slavery. From the perspective of the ancient rabbis, this was actually a battle between the philosophies of Joseph and the philosophies of Judah. In an argument over what type of person would end up leading the Jewish people. It's kind of an idea of who will we be as Jews? Will we be like Joseph or will we be like Judah? Even more crucially, because the sages thought that the end of history was somehow being discussed here, the question that they are really debating is it Judah or Joseph who is the one that is qualified to have the Messiah descended from him later on? The big picture question, what are the qualities that we hold most important for our leaders? So the question that we want to ask is, what is the difference between these two brothers? Why does this whole thing even matter between Joseph and Judah? If we read the stories closely, we see that Joseph is someone who is very pure throughout his life. Judah made some questionable choices and mistakes in his life, but Joseph did not. As a child, Joseph was pretty full of himself and taunted his brothers. But after that, being thrown in a pit and sold into slavery, everything changed. One example, during their years of separation, Judah and Joseph both faced similar personal challenges. We read in Genesis that both of these characters were approached by women about entering into inappropriate relationships with them. Judah is seduced by his daughter-in-law, Tamar, who is in disguise at the time. He does not know who she is. Joseph is seduced by Potiphar's wife. Joseph maintains his distance from Potiphar's wife and gets out of the situation without ever coming into contact with her. Judah, on the other hand, though he doesn't know that it's Tamar, his daughter-in-law, falls for the seduction and impregnates her. Following these events, once Judah learns the truth about what has happened, he is, of course, devastated. Judah spends time repenting for his transgression, changes his behavior, and improves himself. Joseph has nothing for which to repent in this case. As another rabbi taught, Joseph was what Maimonides called an elevated righteous person. He wants to do what is right. He does it all the time without any obvious internal struggle. Another commentator, Rashi, says that Joseph was just this great person. The same Joseph who shepherded his father's flocks is the righteous Joseph who ruled over Egypt. He was so good that you might argue that he was almost better than human. Judah, on the other hand, was what Maimonides has described as someone who sins, but who learns from his transgressions and can change following his flaws. Yes, he failed with Tamar, and there were so many things that were wrong with that relationship. And yes, he helped in the plot to get rid of Joseph. But when he was given the opportunity later in life, after some reflection and change, he actually risks his own life to save the life of his youngest brother, Benjamin. So which of these characters does our tradition embrace? I want to give you a hint here. Today we practice Judaism. We don't practice Josephism. Ultimately, it is Judah who reigns. Ultimately, King David becomes his descendant, and we are told that the Messianic age, this beautiful time when the Messiah will come and the world will be perfected, that will all happen when the descendant of King David will lead our people. I think it's a really powerful idea that our tradition leaves us with this week. It's not the perfect person who has never sinned that our tradition prefers. Rather, it is the person who has lived life, maybe who has made some questionable choices, but who grows from those decisions, who learns from his or her their mistakes. That is the type of person that our tradition sees as a real leader. Because none of us are without blame or transgression. We have all said things we regret. We have all made choices that maybe felt good in the moment and that were hurtful in the long run. We have all been selfish and stubborn and lazy. But our tradition doesn't see those actions in a vacuum. If we can learn from our mistakes and grow as people and really make changes, that is what our tradition prefers. Sure, it would be great to be pure and holy without any sin like Joseph in our lives, but it's not real. It's not human. Long ago, Judaism recognized that all leaders must be flawed. And if not, they could not understand the real needs of the real people whom they had to lead. And even centuries ago, our ancient rabbis understood how much we can grow from facing adversity, how much better we can be from having overcome struggles. So here we are facing a new year, a secular year tomorrow night. Though it may not be 5784 quite yet, the same idea applies to 2023. Our tradition tells us over and over again, it's not too late to make a change. It's never too late to make a good decision, to do the next right thing, to turn back from even a repeated bad choice and learn from our mistakes. When we do that, we will be stronger and more empathetic, and we will be more human. And that's what God demands of us. May this Shabbat inspire us to make that change in our lives. And in this new year of 2023, maybe we can be just a little bit better and make our choices match who we want to be. Shabbat Shalom. One of the ways that we can go about doing that is by thinking of others. And a clear way that we do that, at least every Friday, if not more than that, is through our Misha Berach prayer, our prayer for those who are in need of healing. We have a gigantically long list of folks who need our prayers this evening. I'm going to read their names, and if you have a name to add afterward, you in the room here and you online, I invite you to write their name in the comments on Facebook, and I'll be able to read those in just a moment. This Shabbat, we are thinking of healing for Marilyn Altman, Lynn Adams, Susan Bader, Sarah Bates, Deborah Belford, Barbara Belford, Brandon Berman, Marjorie Block, Barbara Bobanich. We're thinking of Paul Branson, Dan Kristen, Marge Serrani, Dorothy Collins, Lily Kovitz, Adrian Crawford, Gary Dicker, Tony Diegler, Ella Dubrow, Carrie Ebert, Sylvia Eckstein, Elaine Ellick, Nancy Emmerman, Rachel Ensign, Marvin Epstein, Michael Fiorelli, Rachel Fish, Olivia Glick, Ken Goldman, Rachel Goldman Mosley, Gladys Goodman, Jimmy Green, David Haas, David Hirsch, Laura Johnson, Katie Jones, Jamie Grace Cash, Don Kerr, Peter Levy, Barb Lucas, Fred Martin, Minna Melton, Caleb Moses, Susan Northrup. We're thinking of Robert Oakley, Nick Parisi, Marvin Pate, Murrow Perlow, Aaron Phelan, Ian Phillips, Rashi Prestowski, Jessica Rathkoff, William J. Reese, Larry Reamer, Barry Richmond, Mark Rossio, Emma Rose, Irving Rose, Phyllis Rotman, June Sahara, Ralph Sauer, Don Schneer, Steve Schneer, Amina Dalsella, Karen Silverman, Yehudit Bat Simcha, Richard Schur, Jonah Snyder, Ruth Ann Stewart, and Pam Storer, Lou Supowitz, Joyce Schwartzman, Andrea Tuber, Randy Cohen-Weinstock, and Dale Winograd. We're thinking also of Karen Polachek, Rosemary Worm, Pete Bowman, and see if anyone else has a name of someone who we are thinking of.
Mr. Patterson. Kyle Serrani.
We're going to join together in singing our Misha Berach prayer, saying, God, may you help heal and send strength to those who need it. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. Let's join together in singing.
Mishe berach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe berach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen.
I want to invite everyone to please rise for Aleinu. You can find that on page 282 and then 287, or up here on the screen. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kagayeh ha'aratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtabim u'modim, Lifnei Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad. As we turn to our Kaddish prayer, we want to acknowledge that all holidays, secular or otherwise, it's a time when we often remember those who we wish were celebrating with us. This Shabbat at Temple Beth Shalom, we are remembering those whom death has recently taken from us, those who are in Shloshim. On this Shabbat, we are thinking of Richard Ackley, Jim Brisk, Neil Johnson, Phyllis Kirschbaum, Jeff Lipkin, Suzanne Osborne, Dane Pearlstein, all who have been taken recently from our midst. And we remember those who died at this season in years past, and we take them into our hearts with our own. This Shabbat, we're remembering the yahrzeits of Barbara Holbein, Arnie Alpert. Oh, I'm sorry. They are both alive. Didn't mean to kill you guys. Nathaniel Edelstein is what I meant. Nathaniel Edelstein, Barnett Alpert, Isaac Barnett, Rose Blotner, Harlan Boozer Jr., Benjamin Cohn, Doug Cram, Pearl Feibel, Jim Goldenberg, Joy Goldman, Lillian Halpern, Ernest Yaros, Eugene Jenny, Norman Kahn, E. Michael Levine, Gary Menser, Ralph Rothschild, Joel Salen, Dan Title. I ask, are there other names of folks who we are remembering on this Shabbat?
Sarah Serrani and Andrew Morales.
On their behalf, and on behalf of all those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we turn to the Kaddish prayer on page 294, or up here on the screen. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyamechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisham barichu le'ela minkol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chayim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom mimromav Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May God, who sends peace and comfort to all who are mourning among us, send us all that love and peace, and may we be together, join our souls with those whom we love. And together we say, amen. You may be seated. Bobby, you got some announcements. Hopefully you won't kill anybody when you read yours. Sorry to Barbara and Arnie. No, okay, all right.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the last Shabbat of 2022 here at TBS. Please join us in the mezzanine after services for a light oneg. As you can imagine, the upcoming week is a little light on programming, but we'll be back at it next Friday, January 6th at 6:30 for our usual First Friday family-friendly Shabbat experience. I'm not quite sure what we're doing yet, but we'll have some kind of dinner planned, and it'll be fun. I also want to put on your calendars, January 18th at 6:30 here at TBS is Session 2 in the Topics in Holocaust Studies taught by TBS member and professor Dr. Richard Prostowski. So if you're interested in that, there's more information in the e-window. And next week, we will also be rolling out details on the 2023 reverse raffle. So look out for that. For all of this information and more, please check out your print edition of the window or the e-window itself. Or if you have any questions, please give us a call or shoot us an email. With that, I hope your 2023 gets off to a wonderful start. And Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi?
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby.
It's hard to believe that we're already starting to plan Purim and all that fun stuff, but it is just around the corner. I was thinking, I have a poem here that is from the Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman that she wrote at the very end of 2021 for 2022. And as I was reading it yesterday, I thought this is still aspirational. We haven't met these goals yet. So I thought maybe before we do our closing song, we could read this. It may be hard to read together, but if you want to read it with me, you certainly can give it a shot. It's up here on the screen. New Day's lyric. May this day be the day we come together. Mourning we come to mend. Withered we come to weather. Torn we come to tend. Battered we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. We steadily vowed that no matter how we are weighed down, we must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we tend to argue, we will try to agree. Those fortunes we forswore, now the future we foresee. Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. Those moments we missed are now those moments we make. And the moments we meet are in our hearts, once altogether beaten, now altogether beat. Come, look up with kindness yet, for even solace can be sourced from sorrow. But remember, not just for the sake of yesterday, but to take on tomorrow. We heal this old spirit in a new day's lyric. In our hearts, we hear it. For Old Lang Syne, my dear, for Old Lang Syne, be bold saying time this year, be bold saying time. For when you honor yesterday, tomorrow ye will find. Know what we've fought, need not forgot nor for none. It defines us, binds us as one. Come over, join us this day just begun, for wherever we come together, we will forever overcome. I think that is a beautiful sentiment and quite the goal for us to aspire to in 2023. In that same theme of aspiration, we are going to turn to Lechi Lach, to a land that I will show you for this journey ahead. Let's sing together.
Lechi Lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech Lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi Lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you will be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi Lach. Lechi Lach. And I shall make your name great. Lech Lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi Lach, to a place that I will show you. Lechi Hayim, Lesimchat Hayim. Lesimchat Chaim, Lechi Lach. You shall be a blessing, and you are a blessing. You shall be a blessing, Lechi Lach.
Making a return trip from Japan, the #1 Manischewitz fan in all of Ohio. We're going to call Natalie to join us for Kiddush. See if I can get this.
All right. That first taste.
All right. We'll just be loud here. Let me turn this so people at home can hear. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim.
Amen, l'chaim.
Okay.
Welcome home.
That was
better than the day I lost it.
Oh man, that was very conservative of you. Only a little
I'll
bit
finish
gone.
it after.
Okay, that's fair. Fair enough. All right. And Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Can I rip a piece out of there?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Happy 2023. Come grab some challah and some, well, just challah.
Just Hall.
Yeah,
Manischewitz
Natalie's
is
taking
all
care of the
mine.
Manischewitz. Yeah. Yay. Let me just turn this off here.
How are you, Benji?
All right. Thank you.